A good friend of mine once said, a PhD isn't something you enjoy, it's something you endure. I remember at the time thinking he was being a little bit dramatic, but soon I would fully understand.
So when I did my degree, I did a 4-year integrated master's in chemistry. That's where you do years 1 and 2 as normal. And then in the third year, there's a placement. And in the final year, you do a slightly bigger project unit for the master's alongside self-taught modules. And you do a slightly harder exam at the end compared to those doing the bachelor's version of the degree. Anyway, for anyone who'd gone and done the master's and got a decent grade, I felt like it was sort of expected that many of us would then go and do a PhD. So I guess I was just sort of doing what I thought was expected of me, whether that's true or not, which is a terrible reason to do a PhD. To be honest, there was also an element of curiosity to see how far I could go with chemistry. I searched for funded PhDs as obviously I needed the money. At that time, a lot of the ones that were relevant to me and that were paid were to do with batteries, nanoparticles, and fuel cells. So I ended up starting a PhD in electrochemistry. I mean, I guess it didn't help that I picked one of the hardest topics. In the first week, actually, I knew it wasn't really for me, but I didn't say anything to anyone and I was just like, get on with it, get it together. The main things I didn't like were that doing a PhD can be quite isolated at times. There's a lot of repetition. You're doing lots of the same type of experiment over and over again, and often you're getting the same results and it doesn't even work. The pressure, especially if you're doing a funded PhD, I do not cope well under pressure, and the culture in academia can be a little bit toxic. Another thing is the uncertainty as well. So you're working really, really hard on something and you're not even sure if or when you're going to get the results you're looking for, and if there'll even be a kind of job that you want at the end. One morning, about 6 months into my PhD, I was eating breakfast at home and I just started crying into my cereal. And I remember thinking, this is ridiculous. I don't think this is normal at all. And as I was walking to the university that week, I felt like my legs would get heavier and heavier the closer I got to the university. And shortly after that, I became really unwell with glandular fever. And as I was lying in bed, I was just thinking about how behind I was and how would I ever catch up. Then I was almost grateful for being ill because I couldn't go in, and that's when I really knew that I needed to quit. Now, quitting was a huge thing for me, and I feel like there's quite a lot of shame around quitting that kind of thing, or at least there was back then. To anyone else who's miserable in their PhD or, anything really in life, quitting does not mean failure. And it took me quite a while to realise that. Often, quitting is actually a really brave thing to do. So I guess the point of this video was just to share my story, and for anyone else going through a similar thing, sometimes it's okay to quit.